What up, people? This is the sixth part of an ongoing series showcasing some of the hidden gems on the Nintendo Switch. If you haven't seen parts 1 through 5, links to the playlist will be in the description below or in the comment section. If there's a game you think I'm missing, I might have already talked about it in one of my other videos, so check them out after you watch this one. If you're new to the channel, I mostly make videos about single player games with a heavy focus on RPGs, but for this hidden gem series, I made sure to include many different genre of games. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button to help the algorithm spread this video around. And with that, here are 10 must-buy hidden gems for the Nintendo Switch, Part 6. The first game on the list is Proteus. This indie first-person shooter was developed by Bounding Box Software and published by Humble Games. The gameplay in Proteus is meant to resemble that of classic first-person shooters such as Doom and Quake. While playing, you must explore complex levels, sometimes searching out keys to progress, while engaging enemies in fast-paced combat using a variety of weapons. To help the player find their way and to aid in discovering secrets, the game features an auto map similar in function to those featured in games such as Doom, Duke Nukem 3D, and Metroid Prime. I remember when I played this on Game Pass and it was a lot of fun. I had no experience with Doom or games similar to that, so this was kind of a whole new experience for me, and I really enjoyed it. The guns were all satisfying to use, and being able to use two guns at once really makes you feel like you're in a zombie action movie. Can't say enough great things about the gameplay, it's incredible. The game only takes about 7 to 10 hours to beat and is level based, so it's a perfect pick up and play game whenever you have some free time on your hands. If you're a fan of shooters, action games, or just that old school era of games, then Proteus absolutely needs to be the next game you pick up for the Nintendo Switch. At number 9, we have a game dramatically different than the last one, and that's Under Leaves. The game is a color-filled hidden object game from the world of animals. The goal of each level is to simply find all the certain number of objects that are scattered across one or multiple sections of an area. Ever since I was a kid, I was always a fan of the I Spy and Where's Waldo books. Anything based around hidden objects or words I was always a fan of, and Under Leaves comes pretty close to giving me that old enjoyment again. On my channel, I frequently use a term for games like this called palate cleansers, which are games meant for you to relax. These are games I would recommend to people anyway, but they're especially good to play in between or simultaneously with high action games like Astral Chain, Bayonetta, or Proteus. Between the visuals and the surprisingly calming background music, the game is meant to be a peaceful gaming experience in every possible way. But don't get it twisted, some of the objects can be a little tricky to find, but nothing ever too crazy. If you're in the market for a game solely designed for you to kick your feet up, relax, and enjoy yourself, Under Leaves is one of the best choices out there. Next on the list, we have After Party. This game was released in 2019 and created by indie developer Night School Studio, who are the makers of the amazing sci-fi Oxenfree games. After Party focuses on best friends Milo and Lola as they journey through hell, aiming to convince Satan to release them from the afterlife by defeating him in a drinking contest. Based on your decisions in the game, including how you treat and talk to certain people, you'll get one of multiple endings. I added this game to the list, one, because I feel more people need to know about Night School Studio and the amazing games they're putting out, but I also just love choice-based games. Games like The Walking Dead, Detroit Become Human, and As Dusk Falls are some of my favorite type of games. Anytime I can promote them to people, I will. And even though I much prefer the Oxenfree games because of the overall story and more developed characters, that game is more dark and sci-fi focused. So if you want a game more lighthearted and comedy focused, After Party is a worthy pickup. At number 7, we have Skullgirls Second Encore. Skullgirls is a 2D fighting game developed by Reverse Labs and published by Autumn Games. In the game, players fight each other with teams of 1, 2, or 3 characters until they knock out their opponents or have the most overall health when time runs out. While obviously not as popular as Street Fighter, Tekken, or Mortal Kombat, Skullgirls has carved out a very small but passionate community because of the game's incredible gameplay, music, and art style. Now, I do have to be honest, when it comes to finding people online to play, the Switch is pretty lacking in that department. And while I'm suggesting this almost solely for the single player content, if playing online is important to you, I heard many people in subreddits say there are some dedicated Discord servers for Skullgirls players on the Nintendo Switch. So join a couple of those if you want people to fight. Because of the low population of people on Switch, I would definitely not recommend buying this at full price. It constantly goes on sale for under $5, which is the price I'm thinking of while I'm recommending it. If you're a huge fighting game person who wants a large and active population of people to fight online, I would definitely suggest buying this on Steam instead of the Switch. But if you're someone like me who's mostly just going to play around with the single player content like story and arcade mode, Skullgirls is a charming and adorable fighting game that deserves your attention. At number 6, we have Neon Abyss. Neon Abyss is a side-scrolling run-and-gun game developed by Vivo Games and released in 2020. The game's premise is centered around members of the Grin Squad as they descend into the Abyss, which consists of a series of levels with procedurally generated rooms in pursuit of powerful entities known as the New Gods. Players may randomly acquire a mix of unique weapons and items that alter the way the game's rules work or statistically increase their character's damage. You might also discover eggs which float in a line between their character, which may hatch to reveal a little pet creature that can assist the player with special abilities. In the underworld, you can choose a personalized upgrade path to expand your dungeon and unlock new rooms, bosses, items, special rules, and new endings. There's also multiple characters to play as, over 500 items, and plenty of mini-games such as piano performances, dance parties, and even fishing. While I typically don't like roguelikes or games with randomly generated rooms, Neon Abyss kind of overwhelmed me with all the fun stuff I could do, and if you give it a chance, I think it could do the same for you. Kicking off the top 5, we have Temtem. Temtem is a monster catching MMO in a similar vein of a Pokemon or Digimon game. It was developed by Spanish development studio Crema and published by Humble Bundle on the Switch in 2022. Because the game is an MMO, I believe you'll always be online and sharing the world with other players, so just keep that in mind if that might bother you for whatever reason. To give a brief story overview, you'll assume the role of a novice Temtem tamer who starts their journey around the 6 floating islands of the airborne archipelago while facing the threat of Clan Bel Soto, an evil organization that plans to take over the islands by force. While playing, you'll be exploring the islands of Airborne Archipelago, completing quests, while also catching and taming Temtem. These Temtem can battle against other tamers, be traded with friends, and breed to create offspring with new abilities. Now, unlike other games in this genre, all battles in Temtem are double battles. Also, unlike Pokemon, using a move with your Temtem requires them to use a certain amount of stamina. The more powerful the move, the more stamina it requires. If your Temtem doesn't have enough stamina to use any of their attacks, they'll have to rest to restore some of it, or you'll have to use an item. This gameplay mechanic makes Temtem a much more challenging game than Pokemon or many other games in this genre, and while I've never found it too hard, I did end up dying a decent amount. But I much prefer this over the game being a cakewalk any day. When I cover other non-Pokemon monster catching games on my channel like Coromon and Nexomon, I always said one of the most important things are the character designs. My motto was always that the gameplay can be amazing, but if the designs are terrible, who cares? And that's honestly my biggest issue with Temtem. The designs aren't awful, but a lot of the faces of the monsters look the same, and outside of a small portion of Temtem, a lot of them have very basic designs. And while this would normally be a big deterrent for me, the gameplay was really fun, so I ignored the basic ones and only caught the ones I thought looked cool. So, if you care more about gameplay than the monster designs, Temtem is a very underrated game in the monster catching genre. At number 4, we have Wild Frost. The game is a roguelike deck builder similar to Slay the Spire and was published by Chucklefish, who have been publishers of games such as Wargroove, Eastward, and Stardew Valley. I actually already made a video on my channel about this game because of how much I was enjoying it, so if you want a more detailed opinion about this game, go check that out. But anyway, your job in this game is to attempt to stop an endless winter. You'll recruit randomly generated adventurers and battle monsters in turn-based card battles. Up to 6 allied creatures called companions and 6 enemies fight in each battle. Depending on where the characters are placed, they can be attacked by a different member of the opposing side. Characters also do not immediately attack but must wait their turn based on an initiative system. If your leader that you picked at the beginning of your run dies, then your run is over. Other than Slay the Spire, I don't have much knowledge or interest in roguelike deck builders, but what drew me to Wild Frost was all the beautiful artwork, specifically the companions. Every time I get a new companion card during one of my runs, I'm always amazed at how good the character design is. A couple of my favorite designs right now are Wart, Fire Fist, and Lil Berry. Even the item cards have amazing designs. If you hit the start button when you're in town, you can look through all the cards you've discovered while on your runs. I spent so much time just looking at all the cards that I ended up following the lead artist on Twitter just to see what else they're working on. But outside of looks, Wild Frost is a very fun and addicting game that doesn't feel as punishing as other games in this genre, at least not so far. You're also rewarded pretty well when you win or lose, so there's always an incentive to just start up another run. So if you're like me and aren't a huge fan of deck builders, or if you're interested in jumping into the genre, Wild Frost is probably one of the best and most adorable places to start. Starting off the top 3, we have Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom. This 2018 action platformer is from the Monster World series based on Wonder Boy the Dragon's Trap and Wonder Boy in Monster World. As far as gameplay, you'll control Jin as he battles enemies and solves puzzles to progress through the story. Jin gains 5 different animal forms throughout the game, which can be switched between at will once obtained. The animals available include a pig who can sniff out hidden contraptions and clues, a snake who can spit venom, climb walls and enter small spaces, a frog who can swim, use his tongue to swim on hoops and carry items, a lion who can dash and break through blocks, and a dragon who can fly and spit fire projectiles. In addition to these forms, players can obtain weapons and armors from shops, many of which offer unique abilities and can be upgraded by finding gemstones. Various magic spells can be used by Jin in either his human or pig form. I don't really remember how I played this because I don't own it, but I vividly remember playing it. It might have been a demo or on Game Pass or something. Either way, I really enjoyed my little time I had with it, especially the platforming, and while I didn't get to play as all the animals, being able to switch between them seems like a great way to keep gameplay fresh. If you're a fan of platformers, then Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom adds a unique gameplay mechanic that really adds so much to the overall enjoyment and fun factor. At number 2, we have Tales from the Borderlands. This episodic choice-based game was developed by Telltale Games under license from Gearbox Software and was released all the way back in 2014. Like I said earlier in the video, I love choice-based games, plus I'm a die-hard Borderlands fan, so I was almost guaranteed to love this game. Also, fun fact, the name of my channel was a reference to rare loot in Borderlands games. Just thought you should know. But I digress. What separates this series from other choice-based games is that the people who made it did an amazing job of taking the classic Borderlands violence, humor, and heart and putting it into a 5-episode game. Similar to the Walking Dead seasons, at least the first and fourth ones, it's clear to see that the people writing and working on the game are actual Borderlands fans. I know that might be obvious because Gearbox had a lot to do with the game, but that doesn't necessarily always lead to games having the same level of passion that this game does. The characters in the game are all great, and even the ones that aren't around for long leave a very lasting impression. Also, one of the coolest things about the game is that it's actually canon to the Borderlands world. People who have played the main Borderlands game know this, but if you haven't played Borderlands 3 yet, you'll be happy to see a couple of the characters in there from this Telltale spinoff. The game is regularly on sale for $15, and the game only takes about 10 hours to get through, so a decent deal if you can catch it on sale. Now, I do realize Telltale as a whole was pretty popular, but I feel like this series specifically never got the attention it rightfully deserved. Maybe it's because I'm a huge Borderlands fan, but I feel like if you love choice-based games, even a tenth as much as I do, or even if you don't, Tales from the Borderlands is a game you absolutely cannot pass up. And finally, at number 1, we have SteamWorld Heist. This game is a 2D turn-based tactics shooter developed by Image & Form, and it's also the 3rd installment of the criminally underrated SteamWorld series, and I think it's technically a sequel to SteamWorld Dig 2. The core gameplay consists of recruiting a team of robots, boarding enemy spaceships, and taking down rival robot factions in turn-based shootouts. In battle, the players control the aiming of all firearms and can bounce bullets off the environment to help kill enemy robots hiding behind cover. As the game progresses, players can upgrade and customize their robot crew with different consumables, equipment, weapons, and hats. Also, to help with aiming, some weapons are equipped with laser sights. The game has over 100 different weapons and almost 100 hats to collect. These can be found as treasure during missions or bought in designated shops. Hats are primarily obtained by shooting them off opponents' heads and collecting them. Outside of gameplay, SteamWorld Heist, like most SteamWorld games, has a very cool aesthetic. A lot of the steampunk robots you recruit have very unique designs, and when you talk to them in between missions, you'll most likely have a very humorous interaction. When it comes to strategy games, Fire Emblem is my favorite franchise by far, but SteamWorld Heist is actually the first strategy game I've ever played. Without it, I would have missed out on Fire Emblem Three Houses, Triangle Strategy, Valkyria Chronicles, and plenty of other amazing games. SteamWorld Heist introduced me to a genre that gave me one of my favorite games of all time, and for that, I can't thank it enough. So, if you ever thought about trying a strategy game, or you're just looking for a new one to play, there are very few of them out there with the same level of fun, style, and charm as SteamWorld Heist. Alright guys, that's it for me today. What hidden gems for the Switch do you recommend? Or just Switch games in general? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video. If you want to see other videos in the Hidden Gem series, the playlist will be in the description, or click one of the links on the screen. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to keep up with the channel. Later.